Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Marva Ward and I'm here to speak to you today about herbs, botanicals, and green foods. Of course, this is all brought to you by Now Foods. Herbal medicine has been used since the beginning of time. At least this is what archaeologists and historians believe. The earliest written history is anywhere from 3000 to 5000 BC, but it was Avicenna who really brought the herbal aspect into play with many of the treatises that he wrote on herbs, plants, and how they work in the human body. In 1025, he completed the Canon of Medicine, which had 600 plus plants that he included that were medicinal and that could be used in treating individuals for different health problems. He made a profound contribution to herbal medicine and to science. His canon of medicine was used in the universities of Europe right up until the mid-1600s. The documentation of herbs and their use was the central part of both Western and Eastern medicine right through to the 1700s, and this really played an important role in the development of the science of botany. World Health Organization estimates today that 80% of Asian and African countries use herbal remedies as their main source of health care. And this is really something to think about. This is 80% of Asian and African countries today. WHO also estimates, or the World Health Organization also estimates, that the basis of over 25% of modern pharmaceutical drugs have plant-based origins. And I don't think this should be really a surprise to too many individuals, because we hear this day after day that certain active components within plants are isolated and then created into a synthetic and then ultimately an effective pharmaceutical drug. More than 2/3 of the world's plant species are estimated to have medicinal value. And you know what? Over 2/3 of the world's plant species, that's 35,000 plants. And if we think about Avicenna, he had noted 600 plants. So we really come a long way with the therapeutic aspects of herbs. One thing about herbs as well is they're heterogeneous. They have multiple applications, multiple mechanisms, and that's what I'm going to try and touch on today with a few of them. As I only have 45 minutes, I will be speaking about them in very specific, and succinct ways if I can. Standardization is recognized on the label of an herbal product. This is something that I get a lot of questions about. What is standardization of herbs? Why do we do it? How is it done? Well, there's several different ways with which it is noted on our labels, but also standardization in several ways to do it as well. One way of recognizing it on the label is including the potency ratio. This defines the concentration of the formula over the natural strength herb. For example, if something says that it's 10:1, indicating on the label, that means that the herb contained in the supplement is 10 times stronger than the leaf or the bark when it is in its natural state. Representation of a percentage of an active component is another way of standardization, or that you will note on your labels. For example, looking at holy basil, it includes the whole leaf, but it will also have a standardized portion. For example, you'll see often minimum 2% ursolic acid. Ursolic acid, although holy basil has many active constituents, it's ursolic acid that they have studied, that they realize really offers most of its, or a lot of its potency, because it provides anti-inflammatory and profound antioxidant properties. So this allows for numerous health benefits. Just to explain this a little bit further, I've given you an example, and I've given you the URL for a PubMed study that was done on clinical cancer research. What it showed at a specific percentage is that it inhibited cell growth and it induced apoptosis, which is cell death in various tumors. This is really important to note because when you're looking at these studies as well, you'll notice that often percentages of specific constituents within that plant are represented in the study. So the percentage of active ingredient noted in herbal supplements typically represents the clinically proven effective level of a specific compound, in this case your solic acid at 2%. One thing I'd like to talk about at standardization, and I think deserves mention here, is that many of your traditional herbalists believe that standardization of an herb is really akin to just another pharmaceutical. We know that within an herb, when you take the herb in its entirety and in all of the constituents work together to create the health benefits that they create. This is something that is debated time and time again, but for the purpose of scientific study, standardization of herbs is very effective and certainly a way to explain the efficacy of a particular herb at a particular ratio. Just to take a bit of time and speak about the Now quality and the Now brand of herbal products. With all of our supplements, with all of our products, it's uncompromising quality in ingredients, research, and development. We have world-class laboratory facilities in Illinois, over 50,000 square feet for testing, retesting, raw materials and finished goods analysis, identity testing. We do over 97 different types of test and quality control aspects of every ingredient. A real trusted name, natural and organic ingredients, safe, effective, potent. We always meet label claims. Specific to herbs, we use whole herbs and standardized herbs, in many cases in combination. The blend of potent extracts with whole herb nutrients provide maximum synergistic efficacy of that particular herb. Environmentally sustainable. Now Foods has significantly increased the environmental efforts over the past 10 years, continuing to explore innovative solutions for reducing our carbon footprint, demonstrating best-in-class corporate environment consciousness, and if we think specific to the growing practices and harvesting practices of our raw materials suppliers, this is something that we are very conscious about as well, and this is what we look for in our raw material suppliers, that they too have a conscious they do have a conscious effort in sustainability in their growing and harvesting practices. We are leaders in synergistic formulas and hard-to-find herbs. Many retailers have told me that whenever they're looking for something that no one else carries, they typically know that Now carries it because we have such a vast array of different types of supplements. And specific to the herbal category, absolutely. So now I'm going to start speaking about some specifics, and very, very quickly, I realize that I can't speak at all or address the vast aspect of each of these specific nutrients, but what I am going to try to do is give you some very specifics, and so that you can walk away with some knowledge of how to use them and how to use them effectively. Ginger root has been used for thousands of years, originated in South Asia. What we know, and when we look at ginger, we start to think, okay, it's very good for digestion, absolutely for heartburn solutions, nausea. It's used even in the allopathic community now for in conjunction with anti-nausea drugs. We've certainly seen it in over-the-counter anti-nausea formula, Gravol formulas that now contain real ginger. Ginger is profoundly effective for a digestive aid, but it certainly is also very effective as an anti-inflammatory as well. Many, many other attributes. It helps to maintain healthy gut flora and promotes the good population of good gut flora as well. Slippery elm, really interesting history, slippery elm. This is North American and has been used for a few hundred years. It is a mucilage. It strengthens and has very profound healing qualities within the gastrointestinal tract. It is a demulcent, so it soothes whenever it coats and puts a type of a soothing film over the area, and particularly the gastrointestinal tract. It's an emollient, an expectorant, a diuretic, and even a nutritive. Historically, slippery elm has been used in times of famine when you make a slippery elm gruel that allows you to be able to have some nutrition based on simply resourcing slippery elm bark powder and mixing it with water. For the purposes of a supplement, it's extremely effective in any type of inflammatory issues with the gastrointestinal tract because being very anti-inflammatory and very soothing. It's 2 capsules 1 to 3 times daily. Peppermint oil is another nutritive that has shown to be profoundly effective for digestion. The small intestine, peppermint oil has been worked for individuals with small intestine issues and of course bowel, for irritable bowel syndrome. It stops the contraction of smooth muscle, and this is the primary problem with irritable bowel. It's spastic action within the bowel, and peppermint oil soothes that. Our peppermint oil is enteric coated, allowing it to open up in the small intestine. It also contains fennel and ginger that fennel we know is a carminative which stops the bloating and gas aspect, and ginger, of course, we know helps with heartburn and nausea, etc. 1 to 2 soft gels 1 to 3 times daily, 30 minutes prior to meals. Herbs as detoxification and laxative support, there are certainly a number of different herbs that I could speak about in this situation, but I've just, again, looking at our time, there are some specific ones I'm going to speak about today. Specific to detoxification, really, we can't talk about detoxification without talking about dandelion root. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, supports many hepatic disorders, specific to the liver, of course, and for bile production, we know that dandelion root is very supportive with gallbladder function, specific for bile production. And I've written down diabetes. In Europe, I've read many articles where they use type 1 and type 2 diabetes specific to controlling blood sugar. It's 2 veggie caps 2 to 3 times daily. Now, I think if we talk about laxative herbs, we have to speak about them and in use in very short periods of time. These are meant for situations where there's no other way to get yourself moving. So there's organic. We have actually organic senna tea. It's senna, but there's also Cascara sagrada. Both of them should be used very sparingly, not longer than 2 weeks at a time, and they help to stimulate. They're stimulants, so they stimulate the action of peristalsis in the bowel, and both of them are not recommended for children, and as I'd mentioned, they're really only meant to be taken for up to 2 weeks maximum. The body becomes addicted to the action, and then we stop having our own action of peristalsis in the bowel. Anti-inflammatories, once again, there's so many different herbs, but I've picked 3 of my favorite. And a couple of them we don't speak too often about, and I think that they deserve their acclimates. The first one is cayenne. Cayenne is so inexpensive and so effective, and it's effective almost immediately. For inflammation, pain, and of course cardiovascular, it stimulates digestion. It is said that if you can take 1 teaspoon of cayenne, liquefy it in water, and have someone who's having a heart attack drink it, that it's effective in stopping the heart attack in its tracks. Something I encourage you to research on the internet, because there's a lot of really valid information out there on this. But the cayenne that I'm speaking about that we have is cayenne pepper at 500 milligrams, 100 caps. It is. It speaks about its potency in heat units, or HU. This is something that in when you're looking at the industry of hot peppers, that many of the different measurements of the hotness of the peppers are based on, of course, heat units, which makes a great deal of sense. 40,000 heat units per dosing or per pill is said to be relatively high. It is the heat producing aspect, the capsicum, that is the anti-inflammatory property of cayenne. So cayenne is one of the only herbs that should be taken on a full stomach or with food, simply because of the burning aspect of cayenne. Typically, most herbs should be taken away from food to reserve the utmost efficacy of that herb. With this inflammatory cayenne pepper, anti-inflammatory cayenne pepper, it's 1 capsule 2 to 4 times daily. Black cherry fruit extract. This is a unique product, almost unique to now. Very few companies have this product, and it is profoundly effective as an anti-inflammatory specific to gout. Gout is an inflammatory illness that reflects itself, or I guess is the ultimately in the end affects the big toe, and it's very, very painful for individuals, and because of the inflammation, and it has a great deal to do with higher uric acid levels in the body. What black cherry fruit does, it promotes pH, balancing pH in the body, which ultimately reduces uric acid levels. Very, very effective. Often people are using it in the form of juice, but now Foods has it in the form of a capsule, very potent. You'll see that the bullet point, the fruit is a 10 to 1 concentration, the highest available, and it's 2 capsules 1 to 3 times daily. Curcumin is a major bioactive component found in turmeric. Turmeric has got to be my favorite plant or herb. This is a plant that belongs to the ginger family as well. It's interesting to note that ginger is profoundly anti-inflammatory as well. There are so many other aspects to turmeric. It's been recommended as a traditional Ayurvedic herb for thousands of years. Curcumin has been extensively researched by modern science, and for its various biological activities. Profound cardiovascular protection, antithrombotic, so it is a blood thinner. It stops the formation of clots, anti-carcinogenic, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and the list goes on and on. But specific to anti-inflammatory, that's what I'll speak about today. And the product I'm going to speak about is curcumin phytosome. There are many different types of curcumin that you can buy in the store, many different types of potencies. Typically, you're looking at curcumin 95, that is your baseline of curcumin, and is very, very effective for people in some cases with inflammatory issues. But the problem with curcumin is it's very difficult to absorb. Its bioavailability is limited. So in a capsule of curcumin 95, you're looking at a possible 10, maximum 20% absorption or bioavailability. So manufacturers have been really trying to find more effective ways of creating a curcumin that's more bioavailable. And one of them is Marva. Our curcumin phytosome, the raw material is Marva. It's a patented curcumin complexed with a phosphatidylcholine. You think about phosphatidylcholine, it is both a water-loving and fat-loving molecule. And our cells are the outer layer of our cells, 35% phosphatidylcholine. So when you couple a curcumin molecule with phosphatidylcholine, it will penetrate into the cells at a better ratio. They're saying 40 to 60 times more effective than regular curcumin. Clinically demonstrates its increased absorption and bioavailability. I've given you the URL for Marva as well. Please, I encourage you to take a look at their website, study after study showing its efficacy. Clinical studies indicate that biocurcumin phytosome provides potent antioxidant activity, and it supports the inflammational response as well, a healthy inflammation response. One capsule 1 to 3 times daily. Again, this is another herb that should be taken with food, simply because it can create digestive issues for some individuals. Mood, sleep, and cognitive. Again, another possibility of speaking of so many different herbs and supplements, but I'm going to speak about passion flower and valerian root for mood. And passion flower is native to North and South Americas. It's the flower and the aerial parts that are used, but there's specific ingredients, flavonoids called vitexin and isovitexin, that are said to be one of its main components in helping relieve stress and nervous tension and calm you down. Ours is standardized to a minimum of 3.5% of the total flavonoids. Passion flower is extremely effective in calming you down. I know some people use it for sleep, absolutely, but it is also a stress relief formula as well. 1 to 2 caps daily is needed. Valerian root is your herb that has traditionally been used for sleep, and it is a century-old herb in many cultures. Very effective, and ours is the whole root, 500 milligrams. Now, one thing about herbs are never meant to be taken forever or over and over for months and months and months. Typically, one takes an herb until they've been able to alleviate the issues over a short period of time. I've heard through all of my readings and teachings, some of the education that I've gotten specific to herbal medicine, is that you're really not going to take the same herb for longer than 3 months at a time. If you have issues with sleep, then you may alternate valerian root with passion flower, with several other herbs that might help with sleep. And you might want to think about adding more magnesium prior to bedtime as well. Relora is a fantastic stress formula and anxiety alleviator. It's a proprietary blend of Magnolia officinalis and Philodendron amaranthus. This, again, is an herb that has been extensively studied for its effect on relieving stress and lowering cortisol. When we are in an active state of stress, we release a great deal of epinephrine, and we also release a great deal of cortisol. Epinephrine, which is adrenaline, is released, and cortisol is released to counteract the stressful reaction. But the problem is when we are constantly in a state of fight or flight, which we typically are, it's said that we typically are on a day-to-day basis, that the levels of cortisol become very problematic. It is shown that 300 milligrams of cortisol in as little as 2 weeks, a daily dose of 300 milligrams per day, has been shown to reduce cortisol levels by 18%. When you increase cortisol, as I'd mentioned, many health issues start to occur. One of the problems is reproduction. Cortisol, when our levels of cortisol are very high and we're stressed over a long period of time, our DHEA production decreases. DHEA controls our reproductive hormones. If we decrease the stress levels, we decrease cortisol levels, we increase DHEA production, ultimately really bringing the body back to a state of homeostasis. just even specifically for reproduction. Holy basil. Now this could really be in both. Not it. I'm speaking about it in mood, but it could certainly be in the adaptogenic portion of this presentation, because it really is an adaptogen. It's an Ayurvedic herb, and I spoke a little bit about the extract, the 2% uracolic acid, which of course ours is. The efficacy of holy basil is profound, and it's everything from healing stress, helping with mood, uplifting effect of holy basil, carbohydrate, blood sugar metabolism, and blood sugar regulation, along with many other attributes. Ginkgo biloba is a Chinese herb that's been used for centuries. The mechanism with which ginkgo biloba works is to improve blood flow to the brain. This really is a support for cognitive function and has been used this way again for centuries. Studies indicate that it's very, very effective for ADHD, helping to reduce symptoms, depression, MS, and even if tinnitus, if it's a form of tinnitus that has a vascular origin, has to do with blood flow. Our standardized herb is 50-to-1 standardization extract, and the constituents within it are a 24 and a 6% extract. So the flavonoid glycosides, 24%, and the 6% terpene lactones, again at a 6%. Once again, these are at ratios which have been shown scientifically to be very effective as far as improving your blood flow, but also in circulation, but also in improving cognitive function as well. We've also included in this particular SKU gotu kola and Siberian ginseng. They say that one of the best cognitive formulas is a formula that includes Siberian ginseng along with gotu kola, and that's what we're providing as well. And it's recommended at 1 VeggieCap daily. Blood sugar, or galactagogue. It's interesting to note when I spoke at the very beginning of this presentation and talked about the heterogeneous aspect of most herbs. You can't. Fenugreek is the perfect example of that. The fenugreek is the seed. It's one of the oldest traditional therapeutic herbs from Greece, Egypt, China. And we know about fenugreek specific with blessed thistle to help post-delivery in promoting milk production for the mom. But it has a number of other attributes and certainly other mechanisms and different ways of helping with our health. And I've given you a URL for the male libido aspect of fenugreek, showing you the URL from PubMed that shows that fenugreek normalizes testosterone. Blood sugar regulation and anti-inflammatory regulation, both coming from the same compound. For hydroxyisoleucine, pardon me. Now, it is this component that is shown to be an anti-inflammatory, and ultimately with diabetics, it helps, because of its anti-inflammatory action, it helps to regulate blood sugar as well. The dosing on it is 2 capsules 1 to 3 times daily. If you're looking for post-delivery milk production, it's typically taken with blessed thistle, both at 3,000 milligrams per day. Adaptogens. And I spoke about holy basil being an adaptogen, and I'm going to speak about 3 of them today. Panax ginseng. This is a 2,000-year-old herb, and it has been used for its invigorating qualities, adaptogenic, and tonic qualities. Panax ginseng is probably, again, one of the most widely scientifically studied herbs today, and it really is recognized for its hundreds of different therapeutic compounds, contributing to hundreds of different biological activities. Specific to Panax ginseng is gissenicides. In the U.S., the only plant that can be called ginseng is Panax because it's the only plant that includes gessenicides. There's also phenolics and saccharides and that are said to contribute to its efficacy as well. What I did when I looked at Panax ginseng and I realized that it was the most widely studied and scientifically researched herb in today's society, I went to PubMed and initially I put in Panax ginseng and up came 5,615 different papers, articles, studies. Then I started to break it down a bit and I went and inputted Panax ginseng and cardiovascular. Lo and behold, I came up with 457 different studies and articles. I've given you the URL for one of them, specific to Panax ginseng's ability as a blood thinner. And as you can see in this slide, on and on, hormone regulation, respiratory, energy production, all of them. In cancer, look at that. It's effect one way or another. With cancer, 644. Chemoprotective, 1,350. It's pretty exciting to be able to see an herb that has this profound effect on us that has been scientifically researched to the depth with which we do it today. Our Panax ginseng is 500 milligrams of the powdered Panax root, 2 capsules 1 to 2 times daily. Siberian ginseng. Now we in Canada can call this Siberian ginseng. However, in the U.S. it's referred to as erythritol, specifically because it is the erythricides within the Siberian ginseng are the active components. Saponins, sterols, glycosides, phenols, and the list goes on and on. Siberian ginseng also can brag about its efficacy in such a vast range of different health issues. Overall immunity. Now this is overall immunity. If you think that we can really increase our immunity, I think it's pretty recognizable on how effective a nutrient that can increase our immunity, what the domino effect is going to be on how it can affect us health-wise. But just some of the ones that are really, some of the issues that are prominently available with studies to support them would be cognitive support with Alzheimer's, cancer preventatives, enhancing athletic performance, menopause, individuals with low blood pressure. It will help to regulate that and bring the blood pressure up. So consequently, people with high blood pressure may want to be careful with Siberian ginseng. Chemoprotective and, of course, supplies energy. Our Siberian ginseng, Eluthro, is 500 milligrams, 100 caps. 2 capsules, 1 to 2 times daily. I think I may have mentioned 3 adaptogens, but there's actually going to be 5 I'll speak about. We can't speak about adaptogens without talking about maca. Maca is from Peru, and you don't have to have a standardized maca to prove its efficacy. And this is a perfect example. The now maca at 500 milligrams is the whole ground root, and it's 100 or 250 capsule size. Within the root, it's rich in amino acids, vitamins, and minerals, rich in saponins, which are said to be part of its adaptogenic aspect, antidepressant, hormone regulator, an overall tonic to the human body. 1 capsule, 1 to 2 times daily. Astragalus, one of my favorite adaptogens, traditional Chinese herb as well. It's rich in polyphenols, flavonoids, free amino acids, trace minerals, and again, astragalus has a long list of supportives that it has shown to create in the human body. Antioxidant qualities, anti-inflammatory, immune system, really helps with mood and anxiety, and again having a positive effect on mood and anxiety. It's said to have protective function for the liver, and helps to lower blood pressure as well. So astragalus is fantastic with as an overall tonic for the human body. Ours is the whole herb, the whole astragalus root, 2 capsules 2 to 3 times daily. Rhodiola. What can we say? What can we not say about rhodiola? Rhodiola, sometimes called the Arctic root, grows in alpine regions in Europe, Asia, and America. This really was Russia's secret weapon back in the 60s, when Russia was considered to be untouchable as far as sports when competing in sports. And during the 60s, it was said that, and maybe the early 70s as well, it was said that the Russians were about 10 to 20% more effective as athletes than anyone else in the world. And it was always wondered, what exactly were Russians eating? What were they doing to be able to create this exceptional sports ability? And what it turned out to be was rhodiola. In fact, my understanding is that rhodiola is now a banned substance in any competitive sport, not because it is detrimental, but it's because it truly does make an individual better, stronger, faster than what they would be without it. It's also said to be a profound stress buster. So back to the athletic aspect of it, there's a number of different reasons why it works. One of the reasons is that it increases oxygenation. And ultimately, when you're able to do that, it increases stamina. It's said to allow us to be able to oxygenate up to 12% to 15% greater than without it. For helping with stress, it maintains optimal levels of all catecholamines and neurotransmitters. Dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, GABA all remain at optimal levels in the brain, allowing us to feel profoundly happy, for lack of a better word. It's the rosavines within rhodiola that are said to be the major effective component. And ours is at a 3% total rosavines with a 1% salidrosides. Salidrosides are effective as well. However, specific to rhodiola, it's the rosavines that are looked upon as probably the most widely studied, but also the really effective component of rhodiola. Antidepressant qualities, I've given you a URL for a study I found in PubMed. This study shows the efficacy of rhodiola after one single administration and as an antidepressant. Absolutely unbelievable. Our rhodiola at 500 milligrams was created for the athlete, because for the athlete, the recommendation is 500 milligrams twice daily, and that is what is on our label, specific to recommendations for the athlete. Immune support, once again, many of the herbs that I've spoken about today offer you immune support. But I'm going to speak about 3 specific ones, and 2 of them in the form of oil of oregano that now offers, as well as an olive leaf extract. Oil of oregano, 30 ml, in the liquid format, is 55% carvacrol, 25% oil blend with olive oil. Oil of oregano is grown in Eastern Mediterranean, primarily Turkey, and has been used again for centuries as an antibacterial, antifungal, fungal, and antiviral. The third bullet you'll see is our now oregano oil enteric coated. This is an enteric coated candida solution. It is a 55% carvacrol as well, but because it's enteric coated, it opens up in the small intestine and is a supportive to fight against candida or to kill candida. Olive leaf extract, the active component, 6% iluropene, and it is a phenol, and that is the antibacterial and antimicrobial aspect of olive leaf extract. Antifungal, antimicrobial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant. 1 VCAP, 1 to 3 times daily. Hawthorn and green tea for cardiovascular support. Hawthorn berry has been used traditionally in Europe and North America and really is a go-to supplement for many different types of cardiovascular issues. The bioactive constituents, OPCs, oligomeric procyanidins, these are powerful free radical scavengers. And because of their broad range of efficacy, it's shown to affect many different aspects of different types of cardiovascular disease. Heart and it treats the diseases of both heart and blood vessels. For congestive heart failure, it is said to be able to strengthen the muscle aspect, the walls of the heart. Chest pain like angina, again, been shown to be very effective in controlling that. Irregular heartbeat, blood pressure. They say if your blood pressure is low, it will raise your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is too high, it will regulate that as well. Atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, high cholesterol, 2 capsules 3 times daily with food. Green tea extracts is known for its catechins and its efficacy, the polyphenols catechins, specific EGCGs when you're looking at cardiovascular support. We have a formula that's specifically EGCGs, but we also have the green tea extract. 40% catechins, 60% polyphenols. The anti-inflammatory aspect of green tea is said to be one of the reasons for its efficacy for cardiovascular support. 11% EGCGs, and there are 16 milligrams naturally occurring caffeine per capsule. But I've read many times that the EGCG component is activated in the presence of caffeine as well. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about green foods. Chlorella is one of them that I'll speak about first. Chlorella is a green single-celled microalgae. It is really said to be a whole food. It's rich in chlorophyll, B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin E. The list goes on and on, as you can see, as far as trace minerals and all different types of minerals, as well as it's a complete protein. It has all of the 9 essential amino acids. Its essential fatty acid content, 39% of it is EPA in the profile. More than 50% of the nutritive value is protein, as I'd mentioned. All the 9 essential amino acids are contained within chlorella. And it's also known for its ability to chelate heavy metals. Russian study that I've quoted with foundry workers concluded the successful removal of mercury from the body as well as other heavy metals as well. Broken cell wall chlorella is a form with which many manufacturers use because chlorella itself has a tough, indigestible cellulose wall. And so broken cell wall chlorella is a process to break the cell wall of the algae, yielding a more bioavailable product and a more bioavailable nutrients. The Now brand has chlorella tablets and powders. Spirulina, a blue-green algae, is dried from it is dried, of course, and it is 60% protein. This is another real, true whole food. It contains all of the 9 essential amino acids per serving. It has the full spectrum of vitamin B, significant fatty acid profile, GLA, ALA, EPA, DHA, and even arachidonic acid, which we need a little bit of course. Spirulina is rich in a full array of minerals, significant source of manganese, iron, and selenium. Manganese, all of them are used in liver detoxification. And spirulina is known for its effect in helping with liver detoxification. It contains iodine that supports thyroid function, respectable levels of vitamin E, beta-carotene, and numerous other vitamins and antioxidants. To complete the profile, you have a pretty respectable content of fiber as well. It averages 7 grams of fiber per 100 grams of powdered spirulina. We have spirulina, organic spirulina, in tablets as well as in powder form. Kelp is the last product I'll speak about today. It's grown in shallow saltwater kelp farms. Again, another one of those green foods that can be considered almost a whole food. Rich in vitamins, antioxidants, substantial mineral support. It's effective. People look at kelp, typically individuals suffering with low thyroid function. Iodine contained in kelp supports the conversion of thyroid hormones T4 to T3, along with tyrosine as well. When compromised, when this conversion rate doesn't occur, it's a factor in hypothyroidism. This conversion is also reliant on selenium and iron, and kelp contains respectable amounts of both of those minerals. Chlorophyll content in kelp is very high, and chlorophyll in and of itself is a very nutrient dense aspect of kelp. Chlorophyll is rich in antioxidant and amino acids, and it's similar to the composition of human blood. Chlorophyll really is the blood of the plant, and so it's not surprising. It increases red blood cell production, and it increases cellular origination. Increased energy to support healthy inflammation response and support overall vitality. Our kelp, we have kelp, and then we have kelp and dulse. I love our kelp and dulse formula as well, because in one capsule you're getting your daily dosing of natural iodine, 325 micrograms. Very affordable, and it has 400 milligrams of kelp, 150 milligrams of dulse. But we also have kelp and kelp in the tablets, and also kelp in the powder form. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me today and attending the presentation, and I wish you a pleasant day.